carbs. There's a common misconception about carbs and what carbs are, as the fitness industry can make it quite confusing.
Is butter a carb? Yes.
Hi guys, my name is Nix and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the misconceptions of carbs, the different types of carbs, and whether or not you should include carbs in your diet. Often we think of carbs as bread, rice and pasta. Oh yes, all the white things. Carbs are just simply everything that's white or beige coloured. But things like broccoli, corn, and pretty much every single fruit are predominantly made up of carbs. And then also, it's not correct to call a food a carb. Sure, it's higher in carbs than all the other macronutrients, so fats and proteins, but it's not just a carb. A particular food may have a little bit of protein in there, a little bit of fat in there, and then mainly carbs, but it's not a carb, it's a food. I digress. You've been pretty much taught to cut out anything that is white or starchy looking and to swap it out for something that is like a color or like brown. And I've been guilty of doing this too. But why have we been taught this? Is there much of a difference between the food swaps we've been taught, or are the nutritional values pretty much the same? Let's just take a look. A common swap that we're told to make is brown rice and white rice. But is there much of a difference between the two? Usually I don't track this type of information in my daily life, but it can be helpful to have an understanding of the nutrients in the foods that you are consuming. So when we take brown and white rice of the same portion size, brown rice has 111 calories to white rice has 130 calories. Brown has 23 grams of carbs and white has 28 grams of carbs. Brown rice has 1.8 grams of fiber and white has 0.4 grams of fiber. Brown rice has 0.9 grams of fat, white rice has 0.3 grams of fat. Brown rice has 2.6 grams of protein and white rice has 2.7 grams of protein. So in terms of the macronutrients, they're roughly the same. Sure, brown rice is a little bit higher in fiber and white rice is a little bit lower in fat. Rice has slightly lower carbs. 5 grams of carbs is not a huge amount compared to white rice. But overall, they're pretty much the same. To see any difference in your health, you would have to be eating great portions of rice. I'm not talking like a few times a week. I'm talking every day, potentially even twice a day, for either of these items to have a significant impact on your health, because we're talking minute details. 1.4 grams of fiber, it's not a significant amount. Moving on to another food swap that we're taught to make, which is white potato or regular potato for sweet potato. Now we'll once again weigh up the two items against each other. So sweet potato has 1.6 grams of protein and white potato has 2 grams of protein.
Sweet potato has 20 grams of carbs and white potato has 17 grams of carbs.
And they both have 0.1 grams of fat. So they are very, very similar. But one thing that I wanted to note here is we're told to swap out white potato for sweet potato because white potato has too many carbs. But if anything, sweet potato is actually higher in carbs. And this isn't a bad thing, it's just because it's naturally just a little bit sweeter, so it has a little bit more sugar, and that's where the extra carbs come from. But isn't it funny that we're taught one way, but the logic behind it just doesn't add up?
But Nix, what about simple carbs and complex carbs?
There are a few issues that arise when you're talking about carbs and putting them in simple category or the complex category. Firstly, the factors which denote which foods go in what group can vary depending on what source you're looking at. Some sources say that complex carbs have to be starchy foods, whereas other sources say they have to come from fruit. It can be difficult to understand firstly what goes in what group, and then secondly, when we call something a simple carb, they're the bad carbs. We're demonizing an entire group of foods. So that's my second issue with simple carbs and complex carbs. And then overall, I just don't think it's very helpful. It can be confusing for a lot of people especially people that are new to nutrition, and overall, it's really not of great importance to pay attention to. As I always say, I sound like a broken record, but everything in moderation. So what is my overall advice? I have 3 points to make. My first piece of advice is to be wary of any diet or lifestyle change that tells you to cut out an entire food group, especially one that recommends that you don't eat any fruit. if this advice has been given to you by a healthcare professional, I would recommend getting a second opinion, because doctors can sometimes be wrong. It depends on the relationship you have with your doctor, but I've had doctors tell me to Google things. Just like with any profession, there's going to be good and there's going to be bad. So if your healthcare professional is telling you to cut out a food group, try and maybe get a second opinion from either another doctor or another type of healthcare professional, like a naturopath or nutritionist or dietitian or someone that specializes, if possible. My second piece of advice is to eat the carbs that you enjoy. Just because an influencer or someone online is telling you not to eat white rice and to eat brown rice or quinoa, but you can't stand the taste of either of them, just have white rice. There's nothing wrong with it. It tastes better to you, so that's what you should go for. You never should force down food if you're not enjoying it just because someone online told you that it's better for you. And my third piece of advice is just to pay attention to the types of foods that sit well with you. If, for example, if sweet potato doesn't sit right with you, or a particular type of rice doesn't sit right with you, or any kind of food for that matter, swap it out for something else that still tastes good to you but makes you feel 100%. And this is mentally and physically. As I said before, you never want to be just forcing a food down, even if you don't like it, just because someone told you it's good for you. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope that video has been helpful. If you liked it, please hit the subscribe button. It helps out my channel a whole bunch. And I will see you next week. I post videos every Sunday. Bye!